Across centuries and languages, across empires and revolutions, two voices rose above all others, and that is not just my subjective opinion this time. They're very different from each other and very far apart, but strangely harmonious and equally as influential. Welcome to Check That Book, and today we're taking a look at a page in history, and the subject of interest today, or should I say subjects, are two arguably greatest poets of all times and of all cultures. Arguably. One is my personal favorite, the one I grew up with. He spoke and still speaks through pages in rhythms of Elizabethan England. The other is the lyrical soul of one of the most, to date, mysterious countries in the world, and the biggest, full stop, Russia. William Shakespeare and Alexander Pushkin, two names that have come to define not only literature, but the very essence of human expression and poetic expression. Let's take a look at those two characters, two epic people who influenced the world of poetry first and foremost, the world I myself love so much and write about and work in, and the world, full stop, just the world. Let's begin closer to home now. William Shakespeare, born in 1564, he lived in a time when the English language itself was still forming. Which brings me to my first argument as to why William Shakespeare is the greatest and should be considered the greatest. Okay, one of the greatest, but I will say the greatest because it's my subjective opinion and I hope you will forgive me for it. Because of the language being still in development, one or two people will rise above others to influence it in such a way that today, for example, English language is, well, it is the official language of the sky. It is the language of the internet, which is the global web, which is the language we can communicate in. And I think here comes the first moment when I can easily say that this is the first thanks we should give to William Shakespeare, as he shaped the English language more so than any other lyricist or poet or writer did. How he did it? Now, through his plays and sonnets, he did not merely use the language that was already in existence and developing, he expanded it. If you read Shakespeare originally, then you might find it a bit tricky, to put it softly. I thank your pretty sweet wit for it. But look, you pray, all you that kiss my lady peace at home, that our armies join not in a hot day, for, by the Lord, I take but 2 shirts out with me, and I mean not to sweat extraordinarily. If it be a hot day, and I brandish anything but a bottle, I might never spit white again. Did you understand what I just read? Well, be calm. I'm no professional, neither did I. Throughout my, I have had this collection of Shakespeare for, I think, a decade, maybe a bit more. And I'm yet to finish at least, the half of it. What I mean by that is that I've already read this entire thing. I'm rereading it just to make sense, because it's difficult. It has dictionary, it has glossary, but I still need to consult, and I need to consult a few people actually who understand Shakespearean English. It is not an easy thing to go through, but let me tell you this. My oh my, is it pleasant. even if you don't understand, practicing linguistically, I mean, practicing reading it out loud is already a treat, even if you make mistakes, which I no doubt still do. English being just one of the main languages that I speak daily, so it's predominant, but still, because of my multi-speaking tendencies, and well, tendencies, I am a multi-speaker, it gets tricky, extra tricky to me. But because I have such a passion and such an interest, perhaps that's the only thing that keeps it together for me and makes me want to, reread, rediscover, and actually understand. That is the power and the magic of Shakespeare. Then again, I have to admit that for one to truly love and enjoy William Shakespeare, one has to kind of grow up with it, and which I didn't. I was introduced to Shakespeare relatively late, in my mid-teens, but I could already sense that this is going to be different. This is going to be a passion of mine that will not grow into obsession like it did with some other people I know, and I applaud them. I mean, they're really cool. They know this stuff by heart. So I know people who know this by heart, and wow. I am just a true admirer, and being a poet myself, of course, I was influenced by Shakespearean poems. Not so much sonnets, but poems. I can speak about William Shakespeare for hours to go, and we're not here for that. We're here to actually expose to those who are not aware, because many people are not, especially young scholars. And if you're looking for extra information or motivation, I can motivate you, hopefully. Shakespeare is tricky, but it is so beautiful, and it is so worth it, and it can expand your language. Shakespeare's works, from Hamlet to Romeo and Juliet, delve into ambition, love, betrayal, madness, and identity. He gave humanity a mirror in which it could see itself, unmasked and, well, eternal. And yes, whilst Shakespeare is widely taught at schools, unfortunately it is not expansive enough, in my not so humble opinion. Yes, I have worked as a tutor, so I know what I'm talking about. It's not nearly as expansive as it should be. Because unfortunately, as I've noticed, and I bet you too, because I do believe that my audience here on YouTube is of an intelligent sort, so I believe that you too have noticed that the language our young people speak these days, oh my god, it makes me sound so old, but honestly, it is to be desired. For some reason, I feel like it is a degradation rather than evolution in linguistic sense, and that is horrifying. Too many abbreviations, too many shortcomings with the English language, and abuse, actually. I am sometimes horrified. And if you use Latin in English, which, I mean, sure, we have lots of that sort of influence, but it's used incorrectly half the time, and it really hurts my ears. Not that I am such a posh speaker myself. I'm far from it. As you might have noticed, I possess accents and parasite words, and I'm a human being. It is problematic, I understand, but what I also understand is that if we won't do anything about it, we will lose what William Shakespeare and many others have been building for such a long time, and we, who have been trying to safeguard the language and only develop it further, well, we have to do something about it now. And we can do that through books, which is one of the reasons I started this very channel and called it Check That Book. Sure, I mean, I lean towards the disturbing, but that's just for, for some fun. Plus, I like to, look at unorthodox things. with you guys. So that's a bit of a different thing. But we read nonetheless. And in the modern world of technology and abbreviations and AI, which I use too, don't forget to, open a book or two. It will do you good, trust you me. Now, more than 2 centuries later, in 1799, Alexander Pushkin was born into the aristocratic world of Imperial Russia. Where Shakespeare shaped English, Pushkin is often said to have created modern Russian literature. His language was fluid, elegant, and alive, bridging the gap between the spoken word and literary tradition. In works like Eugene Onegin, which we have spoken about on this channel, and his lyrical poetry, Pushkin captured the spirit of a nation awakening to its own voice. Now, at first glance, they seem worlds apart, different languages, different eras, and different cultures, of course. Yet their connection lies deeper than time. Both were architects of their national literatures. Both took the raw material of language and refined it into something enduring and universal that can also be successfully later on translated into the languages of one another. Shakespeare can be and is properly translated into Russian and vice versa. They each wrote not just for their contemporaries, but for all generations, and it shows. If you ask any schoolboy or girl about the world's most famous poets, then most likely you will hear their names. Shakespeare's characters speak with such psychological depth that they feel modern every day, despite the language that is tricky to read. And Pushkin's poetry carries a clarity and emotional precision that continues to resonate across cultures. Their poetry, in particular, reveals their genius. Shakespeare's sonnets explore love and mortality with a balance of structure and emotional intensity. His mastery of metaphor and rhythm, especially the rhythm, that is my personal favorite aspect of his works, allows the reader to feel both the beauty and the fragility of existence. Pushkin's poetry, on the other hand, is celebrated for its simplicity and musicality. He's almost a lyricist. He could express profound ideas in language that feels effortless, yet so beautiful. His verses flow like conversation, yet carry philosophical weight, speaking of freedom, fate, and the inner life of the individual. But what makes them geniuses is not only their technical mastery of the language, it's their ability to capture the human condition in its fullness. Let me try to explain. Now, they understood contradiction, how love can bring both joy and destruction. True. How power corrupts, yet can bring immense pleasure to some, right? How identity is both fixed and fluid. It's I think, to a degree, just because they were pioneers in what they did, sort of, they got as famous. Sure, we are forgetting about people such as William Wordsworth, who also shaped English language. We're forgetting about Byron. We're forgetting about Dostoevsky. They worked in their special niche, kind of like our channel. We're niche. Did you know that? And yes, they too helped along the way, to shape the language and the literary language, most importantly. But when asked, like I said, mostly you can name these two world-famous poets. There's a plethora of cinematography done on the characters, on both of them. There's film adaptations, there is extra books written about the characters. both depicting their biographies and just, plain fiction. There's merchandise with these two poets, right? It's just, they're both so immensely popular. And I think by now you should start to understand why. Did you know that Shakespeare and Pushkin also influenced each other? Of course, not directly, but they did. Pushkin admired and studied Shakespeare very deeply. He drew inspiration from Shakespeare's dramatic structures and complex characters. In this way, Shakespeare's voice echoes within Pushkin's work, transformed through a Russian soul. And I find it oh so beautiful. This is such a great example of connection between cultures through pages and ages. Wow, together they form a bridge between nations and years, eras, between ways of thinking even, because let's face it, the way the Slavs think differs greatly from the way the Britons do. And wow, Pushkin gave clarity to Shakespeare's most complex characters, and Shakespeare's elegance influenced Pushkin. They both gave the world the language of drama and introspection. Say what you might, but they did, and they shaped it. I mean, if Shakespeare started it, being the earlier incomer, then Pushkin just polished it to perfection. And their contributions are invaluable. Their influence extends far beyond their homelands. Writers, poets, and thinkers across the globe continue to draw from their works. They remind us that literature is not confined by borders. It is a shared human inheritance. Two voices, two geniuses. One enduring truth that through words, humanity can understand itself.